All right. Welcome, everyone. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a special called meeting of the Committee of the Whole for March 24th. There was a scheduling conflict in this room. There's another meeting that was scheduled in here. It is a public hearing for R-25-3-1, the original zoning for Meacham property, and R-25-3-2, original zoning for Barrow Development in the Flats on Lafayette Road. They have been moved to Council Conference Room 136. If anybody's here for that, there's some officers in the back of the room. They can direct you to where that meeting is taking place. At this point, we will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Smith,
Present.
Councilmember Stallings, Councilmember Marsh,
Here.
Councilmember Crabtree,
Here.
Councilmember Craig, here. Councilmember Martin,
Here.
Councilmember Sumner, Councilmember Meek,
Here.
Councilmember Bogard, Councilmember Velez,
Here.
Councilmember Bell,
Here.
Councilmember Dowd. Here. We have a quorum.
All right, if you would stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, number 4, new business, Newcomb Oil Company LLC zoning request. That was attached in your agenda. Mr. Britton presented this, a request for 4.106 acres of property located at 3065 Pembroke Road. Be zoned as B4 Arterial Commercial District on March 18th City Council meeting. Anybody have any questions about that?
Motion to pass it on to council.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes. All right, item B, Hopkinsville Industrial Foundation promissory note, and we'll call on Mr. John Crenshaw to come up. Yes, sir.
Hello. I have a list of questions here that,
Do you mean to ask those? We can,
well, could I say something?
absolutely.
First of all, the Hopkinsville Industrial Foundation, another year, will have been in operation in Hopkinsville for 100 years. And over that time period, most, or if not all, the industry in Hopkinsville, the Industrial Foundation has been a part of. And at this point in time, everyone in this room knows the importance, I would think, of Hopkinsville Industrial Park, South Park, Commerce Park. And recently, I think I stood in front of a previous council with not all these new members, but I made the point that recruiting industry is not something that you just do and you're done. Many of you here can remember Ebonite, Thomas Industries, Phelps Dodge, C&F Stamping. The list goes on, and all of those were very important to this community at one time. Provided for a lot of tax dollars and jobs, and they're all gone now. And due to the Industrial Foundation's mission of continuing to recruit new employers, industry, which we were very successful in doing in the late 80s, all through the 90s. And you're all very well aware of those industries, and which are in Hopkinsville Industrial Park and Commerce Park. And I know they're a large portion of the revenues that the city brings in, but at the same time, do you really think without that change from those industries we had before to these new ones, would Rural Kings, would Chick-fil-A, would Lowe's, would 2 Walmarts, I mean, would they be in Hopkinsville? You know, and I think maybe that we may be in bad shape now if it weren't for these industries that the Industrial Foundation have to recruit. we're very fortunate. They're good. Industries are good jobs. I see people all the time, tells me, I work the second shift at T-Rad or so forth. And so I want to start with that the Industrial Foundation is in partnership with the city and county government and all the people in Hopkinsville, the citizens, and that we're trying to create and recruit good companies and make good jobs for the citizens. And you see it all over the country, but you see it really big time in Clarksville and Tennessee and Alabama and some of these others who have turned this recruitment business into quite a bit more costly than it was in the 90s. I mean, I remember sitting in the room with the latest, we had 8 Japanese industries, and talking about, you know, what they're going to pay for the land, and they almost knew what we were going to pay, and we had to make a little, and we were the enterprise zone, and they were going to get tax breaks, and these were all tax breaks that came after they got the jobs. Well, Tennessee and others changed the game, and the incentives started coming up in the front. And you're all aware, or most of you are aware, and the new council members didn't vote on the recent incentives that this latest prospect we have has asked for. But, you know, so now they want it up front, and it's just not as easy. But we've changed. We said, okay, we'll play that game, and we want to keep getting these industries to come to Hopkinsville. And so that's where we are today. And the Industrial Foundation over the last, well, it started in the 80s, you know, it built 12 or 13. I lost count because some of them were sold as soon as we were building them, and others we picked up a building, the Woodbury building. It was a building that Princeton didn't use, and we moved the steel here and we built it here, and it was sold before it was ever put up. So, but we have our current spec building, which is a whole different league at 100,000 square feet. All the previous ones were 48,000 square feet. In my first Industrial Foundation meeting in '88, I was there when we voted on the $258,000 spec building. And this one, just over 10 times that much, but what, a lot more than 10 times, whatever. It's, you know, it's not as easy. Well, it costs a lot more. And so, and we filled up parks. I mean, we filled up Hopkinsville Industrial Park. You know, we had to go look at Commerce Park, and we filled up Commerce Park. Now we're going to Commerce Park 2. And so actually, we should all be proud of the success that we've had as a community. We didn't do it by ourselves. I mean, it wasn't the Industrial Foundation. I had options. Philip Mullins isn't around anymore, but Philip Mullins gave me options, and people asked me, well, how did it work then? I said, well, Philip would just option the farm and say, here, you want that 20 acres? Just take 20. Well, you know, now they want it's all or none, buy the whole farm, which is where we are now. And so this is kind of the history of what's happened, but the city council, the fiscal court have supported us, and we've always had volunteers, and was the head of the industries. I mean, the head of the utilities have always been on the Industrial Foundation, along with local business people, and the mayor and judge have lots of times been on the board also. So we're working together for the common good of Hopkinsville. So we want to go into the questions?
We can, yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'll read them out. The first couple, I've kind of asked Doug to answer these. The first one, why is it the city's responsibility to make this payment? And does the city of Hopkinsville have any type of contract or agreement with the Industrial Foundation to make this payment on the purchase of Commerce Park 2?
Okay. This interest payment, there are 2 different farms. We bought the Garnet acreage and then the Luttrell farm. And the Garnet farm was originally the farm, that was big enough debt for us to begin with. And then here comes the Send Elements, and they wanted, and we had options on other acreage because we were marketing this as as a rail-served industrial park. They wanted this site over here, which was kind of on the Luttrell, it wasn't kind of, it was about halfway on the Luttrell property. And that's the one they wanted. Well, I looked at it and said, wait a minute, I was worried about that big hill there, getting rid of it anyhow. So, and this leaves us our best site, lot 1 over here, and we pushed a little and said, we'd rather you locate over here because this makes us have to buy another property and it's all or none. Well, that's the one we want. And so we went into another farm debt. So yes, the Industrial Foundation took out those loans. And is it the city's responsibility to pay it? Well, I think of it as a partnership between the Industrial Foundation, the city, and the county. And do we have any type contract? No, we didn't. But since we're doing it all for the good of the city, and we actually had 2 and another industry coming, and we thought, well, we're going to be fine, and we just jumped in. Well, Microvast got kicked out, but didn't get their grant from the government because of some politics or whatever. You may know that story, but they didn't come. And until Ascend gets here, we really won't land these other 2 supporting industries, because when you land somebody that big, there's normally supporting industries. So we felt very confident that we were going to continue to sell this acreage. And so, but the short answer of both of these, why is it the city responsibility to pay these payments? Well, the Industrial Foundation needs help, and we're all in this together, and we've been doing this to benefit the community. And we have a plan to pay you right back. And I'm sorry that the plan that we should have a closing quicker than what's actually happening is not happening yet. But we're hoping to have that closing April the 4th. But the interest was due in November and January. And the banker has put it off for as long as they can for the regulators not to go, this can't keep going. And so when we signed the last amendment to the purchase contract with the company planning to buy the spec building, we said in the meeting, and this was in early, and I looked at these questions about why did you just hear about this, but in our meeting, we told many people that we can't just put this off. We need a contingency plan. And actually at that point, the amendment only went to March 14th. Now it's out to April 11th. And so we thought we were going to get it closed by then, but we didn't. It was the 19th, whatever. We were going to close on the 14th. And then all of a sudden, they've now come back to us and we're going to have to extend it again. So we had to have a contingency plan. And we've been talking to the county, to the mayor and the judge about, we're going to need some money because we got to pay this. And so that's the story. I mean, I have 2 loans. The county has already given us a check for $375,000. And that $375,000, I think y'all have, Troy, you've given them further accounting of the exact number. The 375 and 375 and 750 doesn't even equal what the payments are. Some of that, the Industrial Foundation, I was just given a round number and we could handle the rest of it. But one payment is 373 and the other one's 390.
Travis, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm trying to understand, if we're all in this together, why weren't we all in this together up front and agreements made and we agreed to pay so much, the county agreed, other stakeholders agreed and partnered then? Why are we coming back partnering now?
Well, I think the city and county were probably sitting in on the meetings or had people on the at the table as we decided to take down the Garnet property. And Heidi, I'm not sure how, well, that was at a 3%, a very low, very good rate. One of the other problems is by the time the Luttrell property came around, that's a higher rate. and that's made it a little more painful. But that first, if we wouldn't have had to go in and do the Luttrell property to get Ascend, which was $1 billion project, something that's the biggest one in Kentucky, I mean, it was huge. And we could have, with some other things happening, I mean, we maybe could have handled that, but now it's gotten too big. And then the interest has gone on the spec building, but you agreed to pay that. So that's,
We agreed to pay the
that spec
interest
building, the
on the,
interest,
spe-
that's right,
we agreed to pay the interest on the spec building, nothing else, correct?
that's correct.
Okay.
And so the other portion of this that, okay, the industrial foundation went out on a limb a little bit and we had to develop another park or we weren't growing. I mean, the Commerce Park was full. I mean, we had to keep going, and Commerce Park 2 had study after study. I've been hearing about Commerce Park 2 for 15 years, and it's a rail served site, and we're going to put the bridge, we're going to upgrade 115. And the big deal is, really, that we've gotten $30 million, and that's a round number. I'd have to, Carter could help me. I mean, $30 million worth of infrastructure added by the state. So we had the state cabinet for economic development in with us saying, we're going to support you on this one. And those things were talked about. But no, we did not have an actual agreement that you're going to have to pay us the interest. But what do you say? What can I say? We were optimistic. We were going to, we knew we had to make a move. If we didn't make a move, we were out of business. South Park, we had a 50-acre site left, which it's gone now with Toyota Bashoku, which is fabulous industry. I mean, it's going to be the highest paying industrial jobs we have. And I mean, we were out of business. We had to keep going if we're going to do an industrial park. And we had the state saying they're going to support us. And I thought, and I still believe, I think the city and the county is supporting us. And so we're at that point now where we need to make a payment. And every spec building before, we pay the interest back. And I have a sheet that shows how the proceeds of this sale shows where we pay you back. Well, we would just, hopefully at the beginning, I was just going to be able to pay the interest straight to the bank, but now I'm going to pay the city and the county back the $375, and we pay you your interest back. And we have enough left in the bank to give us some cushion for another year. And during that year, I'll be quite open. That's what I've always have been. We've got to come up with a plan to make this not happen again. And if that's a no interest loan from the city and county for the loan at the park, or we go up to the state, which we're already working that, trying to get that in line. The state of Kentucky sold the E-Town South site to Ford for a $5 billion plant, and they held it forever. I mean, and so we're now considered at the State Economic Development as having the premier site down here in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, rail served site, with TVA putting in a switching station and a substation and bringing all this power to us, and they're all in too. So why we didn't have all these agreements, Mr. Crabtree, I can't. I had plenty of agreements to try to work out anyhow, but if things would have gone as smoothly as we planned, but they didn't, and here we are, and I'm asking
All right.
for your help.
These next three questions, I think you've already asked, but I'm gonna go ahead and just read them out loud. First, how long has the Industrial Foundation known that you had a payment due on Commerce Park 2 loan? I believe you'd already answered that one. Why is the Industrial Foundation just now requesting assistance from the city of Hopkinsville? The request date that came to us was on 3/18 with the payment due on 3/31. And then has the Industrial Foundation worked with your creditors to extend payment? And I think you answered that one as
Yeah,
well.
from November and into January, all the way out to March 31, and we just can't do any more.
So this 375 you're asking for, does that pay a year's worth of payment or is that?
It's a year's worth
It's
of
a year,
interest.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's an annual
that,
interest
that's good.
payment.
All right, let's go. Next one, is the Industrial Foundation waiting for the closing of the sale of the spec building so that you can make payments to Commerce Park 2? I think you've asked that one as well.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, yes, I believe you are, but.
And also on the kitchen food project, which is extremely exciting to me, and I'm sure a lot of people in the community and the region. I mean, all of a sudden, we're not in the auto industry. I mean, we had great success in the auto industry, and we have somebody could say too much, and we're too invested. But, you know, one of the neat points that Carter brought up about our auto manufacturers, if we would have and will or one day go to electric vehicles, the parts they make are needed for both kind of cars. We really weren't that locked into just gas cars. So it was really a good idea or a great thing for Hopkinsville. But anyhow, where was I?
All right, go to the next one. Has the
This
industrial,
was a food, what I'm saying is
Yeah.
that kitchen food is now we're getting in a food industry, which is, here we are in this agriculture community, and there are consortiums in Franklin, Kentucky, where Amish communities have done greenhouses. You know, they could be getting their vegetables, they could give, Seymour Millen is next door, so next thing you know, what are they getting, their bread mix or whatever from them? So this is something that's really exciting.
has the Industrial Foundation had an opportunity to sell the spec building prior to Kitchen Foods' proposal?
We did have another purchase and sale agreement with a company, but they strung it out and said they didn't want to make that investment at this time. Oh, two. Then we also, no, we've had two, yes. It was, yes.
Can we back up a question?
Mhm.
I'm trying to understand more about this closing. It seems like it's been pushed off and pushed. I mean, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So as of right now, the new closing date is April 4th. Is that what I heard you say?
That has not been said as the closing. The amendment actually gives them to April the 11th, which is the next
Okay.
Friday.
So if
the-
it goes past April 11th, it seems like we've been talking Kitchen Foods for a long time. So
Yeah,
is
kidding me.
this something that we're going to just keep pushing back and pushing back and pushing back? Or is this like going to be kind of a hard day as that we really need to close on this?
Well, I've dealt with a man in Houston who is the investment firm who is, I don't think it's a secret or anything, that they're buying the building and they're leasing it to the company. This is happening all over the country. It's happening right here in Hopkinsville. It's already been done with a couple of industries that they've sold the building and they want to lease it back from somebody. And there is 6 digits in non-refundable escrow money. And before those amendments expire, it's like, wait a minute, we got to sign another amendment because they don't, you know, they're past the point that they would have to give up their escrow money, and they're not doing that. I mean, I was on the phone with him this weekend. I was on the emails this morning. I don't want to say too much, but I say anything. Tom Britton is working with them with permits. I mean, this is going.
The only reason I just want to acknowledge, we have a weekly call with the company CEO. Last Wednesday, we had our weekly call. April the 4th is what he's targeting. That is what they want. They've actually initiated some contracts that their clock is ticking.
Microphone.
It's not a matter of if, it's simply a matter of when. You can repeat that.
What's up?
Yeah, and
I'm good.
I'm with you. I'm living it.
Yeah.
I've said to this friend, my friend now, who we look at each other on the video calls all the time. And I said, okay, now we're in double digits on amendments. And now I call this one the dirty dozen. You know, what am I doing here? We got to get this thing closed. And I am with you big time. But this is not I mean, Doug and I talked right at the beginning. I mean, he sees that this is moving forward and why they're not going ahead and closing. It's just one issue after this or that. But the issues are becoming no longer on our plate, you know, it's them, but they're ordering material for this building because of the lead time, and they don't want that lead time to be that long after they close. So I fully expect it to close.
Okay.
The second part to that question, you said you had two separate companies interested in the spec building. One of them just didn't pan out. There was another local company, I believe.
Yeah.
Why was it not sold to that local company?
Because this company was giving to the state information that they would go to 900 jobs. It was a different industry. The mission of the Hopkinsville Industrial Foundation is to bring jobs to Hopkinsville. And so it was also at a better price than the local company. We also have a 35-acre lot that this other company probably would have been better to build on a distribution warehouse that they wanted instead of this building, which is very nice with insulated panel for the walls. And I mean, it is a nice spec building. It's not like a distribution warehouse. And we now have, everyone is aware of this, the Economic Development Council, I'm sure, is a 3-county group. And there's another 100,000 spec building down in Katy. But I'm not trying to not do it in Hopkinsville, but we were working with them saying, because at one time they were somewhat like, well, do we really want to be this close? We may be better off. So we just felt like at the time when Kitchen Food came about that, I mean, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to create jobs. This one maybe will add 20 or 30 jobs. This one adds 900. This is another industry in Hopkinsville. I mean, we voted to go with that one. And I think I can't wait for it to pan out and say, boy, that was a good decision.
All right, and I'm gonna read this one word for word. These are questions written by council members. It says that the city of Hopkinsville pays half of your 3/31/2025 interest payment on Commerce Park 2. How does this benefit the citizens of Hopkinsville, considering the poor performance of the city's current economic development investment in Commerce Park 2?
Well, I have a different take on your poor performance. With a rail spur coming off the main line of the CSX Railway, roads connecting now over to 115. Already, I don't know how many hundreds of millions spent. It may look like they've shut it down for the time being, but there's every indication that it will be cranked back up. And a bridge, a connector bridge that will be over 41 and improvement 115, the state says they want to do, and I guess Buc-ee's is going to be down there too, and 115, and all of a sudden I've been on 115 with those 18-wheelers on, and it's dangerous. And so we get, all of a sudden, we're opening up a new corridor, and the state knows they're sending us leads to go into that park, which still keep coming. And so poor performance, I don't see it that way. But, let's see, what did you say? How does it benefit the citizens? Jobs, growth, Rural King. I mean, just us having a community that's vibrant and not stagnant or shrinking. And that's been the mission. That's basically the mission statement of the Industrial Foundation, and I'm sticking to it. I just got to keep trying.
All right, and these next few questions, I believe you've already answered, but I'm going to ask, prior to considering the city of Hopkinsville making half of your 3/31/2025 interest payment on Commerce Park 2, the city requested a notarized letter from the creditor saying the total amount that was due. We did receive that today. The city requests copies of statements, agreements from the bank showing exactly what the payment is. We did receive that today. The county's contribution, Mr. Crenshaw indicated to the mayor in an email that the county had already made their payment of $375,000 and it has been applied to one loan payment. The request was made for the city to make a like payment for a separate loan. Has the city made that payment? And we have verified they have made that payment. So those are
The county is
the county, sorry. And then I just wrote this question down. If we don't make this payment, what are the consequences?
I'm not a banker, but I know when you don't make your payments and if all of a sudden, we have some kind of foreclosure or, that's not gonna look good when the state is has spent big bucks on Hopkinsville, or in Christian County. And we don't want to go there, I think. I mean, and now what the actual steps are, if we don't make that 331, you would have to talk to someone here that's had foreclosure against them. But I guess it would start with a certified letter.
Hey, Travis, can I ask a question?
Sure.
How much money has been put towards this project,
Toward the,
this entire project, the infrastructure, everything? How much money total?
how much money total has been put toward
Commerce Park 2.
Yeah,
So in terms of what infrastructure, just in general infrastructure?
yeah.
So I think you've got about $70 million in a state EDF grant that went into the roads and rail infrastructure, and that was a state grant. Then there's around a $25 million state road project that supports connecting Highway 115 into the park. And then you had around $40 million TVA substation and electric upgrades, and then a few other smaller upgrades. So you're around $100 million in total investment from others into Commerce Park 2 that this is leveraged on behalf of the community.
I understated that at 30, sorry. That was, I mean, TVA's investment's huge, and so.
That substation and all of it.
Oh, yeah, which I'm working with them now, trying to figure out where we're putting, I think they've done core drilling and the whole 9 yards on where that switching station, and they've already started the easement for the new line that they're bringing from somewhere. So, right, there is a substantial investment besides us, and it's the us I'm here to talk about. And when you look at their numbers, and 375, you may not, and which I hope to pay right back, the Industrial Foundation hopes to pay right back, it doesn't, it kind of pales in comparison to how others have bought into this. And I'm sorry that's left out. I didn't leave totally out the power part of it, but the power is big. I mean, you read the news, all you hear about is generating power now, and we have TVA on our side. And TVA has been a great partner. They've given the Industrial Foundation low interest loans, not given anything, but the rates were real good, which we used for other projects. And the Industrial Foundation, the entrance in the Commerce Park. I don't know how many have been out there lately, but the Industrial Foundation funded that. But we put in for a program, it's 80-20, 80-20. So they paid 80, TVA paid 80%, we paid 20%. There's new signs. Now you don't hit the sign when a truck pulls in. It's much better than what it was. And so what else does the Industrial Foundation do? I mean, I can't even, you don't want to know what all's on my plate. It just goes on. And there wasn't much going on between 2000 and 2020. But man, it's taken off since then.
Anybody else?
Counsel.
Questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Crenshaw, I noticed you saying that the 375 is crumbs to other agencies, or how much money they spending. But I just want to put out here is like, that 375 that you're asking for, it's not none of our money. It's not the mayor's money. It's not nobody on this council money. It's the citizens of Hopkinsville. And we actually, basically, we saying we're a loan company. And you're not wanting the interest, you want a 375 and you give it back on the 11th. But what is the actual plan? Because like I said, I have none of the councilmen, we have nothing in front of us. We just go and hope. It's more or less, I guess we call the good faith loan company. And that's what we're going off of. But I want to help you, but I just want to make sure that this don't happen again, because we have to face our constituents. We have to face them. Like, man, y'all doing 375,000, and I just want to make, because I want to help you. Definitely want to do that. But I just want to put that out there that this is our the citizens' tax money.
And I'm well aware of that, and I appreciate your comments. And I want to say that we're working to make their lives better in our community by creating opportunities for them to have a career at this industry or this plant or whatever. When we all know that vocational training is what we're talking about with our school system right now. And I mean, I grew up and my father said, go build that fence, but what we need, I'm really looking forward to. I've been kind of a critic of the schools and all the reading the classics instead of learning how to the common and the line voltage on electrical. We need to push that more with our kids. And I hope that while us being a community that's thought of as having lots of good industry, that these kids will grow up and have good paying jobs and rewarding jobs that I fixed this or I made that. And so if you want to take something back to your constituents, that's what I'm saying. That's what I would think that's what you should present to them, is that we're thinking about future jobs for the youth of Hopkinsville.
Can I ask a question again? How many jobs is Kitchen Foods going to create?
At their plan with the state of Kentucky, what was that? 900 was what it ended up. I mean, now, as with all industries we've had here, it's going to be 130 to start with, and then they'll go to 230 or 350, and it'll grow. But their plan and what they presented on their application to the state of Kentucky and have told us is 900.
Councilman Bogart, I just want to acknowledge his comment about the scaling and the ramping up. They have provided that schedule with their state application. So it's about a 5-year ramp up, but 900 is the target that they're shooting toward. And the other projects that have been announced recently in the last few months, when you combine all of those, there's about 1,500 new jobs that will come onto the market in the next 12 to 18 to 24 months related to the projects that you saw referenced in the annual report. These would be new to the market. They're not yet filled.
This $375,000 payment that's hinged on the sale of the building, which is a gamble with public funds. Is there a backup plan if this deal falls through again? Or does the city intend to cover future payments if necessary? What happens if the market softens so further and the property remains unsold another year?
Well, our backup plan is we probably would go higher up to the state and ask for help because they're so invested in this park, which I would rather not do. And I hope what the steps that are the things that we hope to happen soon and expect to to happen, that's not going to make that a possibility. But that's where we are. We've started this process and we're just going to keep working through, and I would like to say that we're asking you also to help us hold up our as a group, hold up our end of the deal. And when the incentives come, you do a lot of incentives, but the state was doing just as much incentives as you. So, this is a partnership throughout Kentucky. And so I can't answer your question for sure what I would do. I'd just go looking. What would I say? We'd be on the phone. We'd be driving to Frankfurt. We'd be coming back to talk to the mayor again and say, can we do this? Can you get the council to agree to this? Or we'd be talking to you as a group again and asking for further help. But when I say this help, I mean, it's just, I just want to say we're all in this together.
Mr. Meek, you have a question?
Yes.
Can you answer it? You got
Me?
Yep.
Yeah. What would the negative impact be if we decided not to do this?
I
Foreclosure.
guess I'm going to get that certified letter that they're going to foreclose on one of the properties. I mean, and then maybe that becomes public record. Next thing it's in the paper. Next thing you know, they're calling Carter from the state and say, what's going on in Hoptown? That to me it's something that we do not want to even put ourselves in that position. And I mean, the interest is kind of got to be paid. I mean, they put it off as long as they could. And I heard somebody tell me one time, well, roll it, just borrow another one. Well, you know, where, am I gonna go to another bank at this point and say, I need to borrow the interest to pay the interest on this loan? And that's not gonna be easy, and it ain't gonna happen before March 31st. But, I'm sorry, but this is where we are. And I'm really sorry that I'm here this late in the game, but I didn't know until, it was like the 12th of this month when Todd said, we're gonna need to do another amendment. We gotta extend this. We're not gonna be ready to close. And we made another one. And I just said, I basically said, yes, that's okay. But what was I gonna say? That's it? If you don't close, we're gonna keep your escrow money? And throw, and all this work and all the work from CDS and from the state and the county and the councils, you know, I said, okay, but we got to get it done this time, you know, and I signed the amendment.
So what was the stipulations with the county? Was it when the building sells that you repay, or was there a time frame?
Well, it said when the building sales are 1 year.
So if the building doesn't sell in a year, you owe the county $375
That's
plus 2 interest payments.
Yeah. I mean, and then the interest payments are going to continue on the spec building. I'll be send us a letter every time. Troy, and Melissa, can you, another interest payments due on the spec building? But, you know, that, I think it's $174,000.
Is that 2 months?
Is that correct? Somebody say that? On the interest you paid on the spec building so far, I got too many sheets of paper. Here it is, 154. Well, you paid $154,362.06. And since then, the Industrial Foundation made a payment for $25,777.67, which I didn't even send a bill for because I thought I was going to sell the spec building and wasn't any reason for you to write us a check. And then, so, I mean, so maybe I could be a little at fault to being a little too nice and like, okay, there's no reason for them to send me a check for $12,600 when I'm going to sell the spec building next week. You know, so I just made, the Industrial Foundation made that payment. So, yes, reimbursed to HIF by city, $154,362 on the spec building. When the sale takes place, we will pay that back. As we have done for 12 spec buildings throughout history.
Plus this 375.
Plus the
Don't forget
375.
Mr. Crenshaw,
Yes, sir.
so I'm gonna go off a little different. So this is all new to me, okay? So I'm a new council member, so bear with me. But from some of the things you mentioned tonight, I want to make sure that, so land at Commerce 2, a little more than what we originally planned on, but we went ahead and purchased it all. Sins Element coming in, it's not quite working fully the way we hoped it would. The spec building, we decided to do that in this partnership that you spoke about, the spec building and then Kitchen Foods just isn't working out. But when you talked about that earlier, you talked about the partnership and how you all made that decision really without the city and everything, and you kind of just went that way thinking the city and county. But now that you owe money, now we're the partner. So in this partnership, the way this comes off to me, your presentation tonight, listing the things that you mentioned, is this partnership. We're only getting to be the partner when we have to forfeit the money up front. That's the part that doesn't sit well with me. I think we're in a position, and I'll say it, we're not going to have much choice. Do I pay $375 and risk $20 million or $4 million or whatever out here? Or do I say sometimes lessons learned and you have to be taught and you let it foreclose? We all know that's not the right thing, but your presentation, when I list out the way you said everything and you talked about the partnership, the only part that we seem to have a partnership in was when it's time to pay. So that's a little concerning to me on the process. And I wasn't here for the years past, but I'm going off the presentation I'm hearing tonight. So that's kind of, unless I'm not catching that right. If I'm not, someone please fill in, because that's how it's coming to me. And that's a problem, process, right? Because I'll tell you right now, I don't care if I ever win an election again, but I'll never be forced into a corner where I feel like you either do this or you're going to get punished for this. I'm not going to punish the citizens by not paying the $375 tonight because of the money this city's invested. We got to figure out a better way to make this process be a little more smooth is what I feel. I think there's things missing, and I'm only going off of what you presented to me tonight.
And I agree with you. I was very hesitant when the board brought this up, that we gotta keep going. We have to start developing another park. And in the past, I told you I'd get options on these parks, and then they'd sell us 20 acres of time. But what also happened is the game changed. The state and TVA would not spend any money on those parks unless we had ownership. And that was what really happened. That was kind of different. They weren't willing, and the industries wanted it up front instead of down the road, but they weren't really bought in until we bought in. We had to control the property, and an option wasn't good enough anymore. You had to own it. And so, the Industrial Foundation, like industrial boards all over the country, I don't have facts and figures or hard data on this, but my understanding is that these industrial boards and foundations and all this throughout lots of communities have now really been blended in with government. At the time, we were kind of that in between that had the options and worked with the landowners and kind of kept it under wraps so the word
Which was
didn't get
a
out.
way to keep it from being public record.
Yeah.
You know.
And so that's what was happening. But now all of a sudden, it's my understanding that in Clarksville and Bowling Green, these things are the old foundations and industrial boards are now just part of the community. And this is something that we need to tackle. Believe me, I'm not going to say I didn't sign up for this, but I didn't sign up for this. It was in the old days. We were having a party for the prospect in town, and they were going to pay so much for the land, and we were going to get this much have to pay this much for it. And now all of a sudden, it's become more of a governmental incentive, economic development, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this is the way you get industry now. And all the industry knows, they walk in, and Carter can tell you, and it's almost, before we ever start talking about incentives, the land's free. And this kind of stuff. And that's where we've ended up. But we want to play the game because we want our community to grow.
Any other questions?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Crenshaw, my understanding with everything you've said, you have years of experience. Is this a common occurrence throughout your years of experience with these corporations? Do they consistently, I don't want to say drag us along, but do they consistently push these things off, pull it out, drag it out? Is this normal?
No, this is not. Again, times have seemed to change. And so I've had people tell me about this industry, tell me, well, I know what they're doing. Why buy it now until they get absolutely everything they need? And when the day they finally close, they'll start construction the next day. Well, I mean, and so they won't carry the interest on the loan. In the old days, it really didn't seem to happen that way. I admit it happened a lot quicker.
The other thing I've kind of taken from what you've said is that in this industry, there's a lot of gambling. it seems like and to me, gambling is saying, well, I think it'll work like this, so I'm going to bet on it. I'm going to say, yeah, we'll be able to take care of that at this date. And then at that date, you pushing it out until you get to the brick wall, and then you're going, oh, I'm going to need some help. I am all for this being successful. I just want to know, how can we keep this from happening again in the same manner? I am with Mr. Sumner on, I really feel like we're not a team yet, but I really think we should be.
And I really want to have that conversation as we move forward.
I do too.
No doubt, because this is where economic development's going. And the little old Hopkinsville Industrial Foundation, 100 years old now, is will be next year. Maybe it's not what the times are calling for these days. It's going to have to be more of the local governments and state government and county government working together to make this happen, because the price tag's gone up. As I said, my first meeting, 88, $254,000 for the spec bill.
Just have one more
Yes, sir.
question.
Yep.
And so really, this is for both of you. And I really like what you said about growing Hopkinsville. I think that is a critical component. One of the things that I would like to see, I'd like to see with our latest Commerce 2 investment, if we look at all those employees that were there, now we know that's changed a little bit. How many of them lived in Hopkinsville and Christian County? And I was given a number, I think it was 23 or 26 of their top people moved to Clarksville. Now, how does that benefit us in Hopkinsville? How does that grow Hopkinsville if they're moving somewhere else but coming here to work?
John, let me, if you don't mind, I would like to answer that because I've got some data that I think will help
And
you.
you may have better data than I do. That was just what was.
No, I'm going to give you the bigger picture than just Commerce Bar 2, because that's just to send elements right now. So that would be a very small snapshot. So if you look across the industries that have located in Christian County, it's around 65 to 70% on average of that industry's workforce will be from Christian County. Roughly 30 to 35% will likely be from a neighboring county, and those counties are likely to be Trigg, Todd, and Montgomery County. Those are going to be the three largest non-Christian County sources of workforce. So you can just generally expect that when you land an industry here, 2/3 or so of that workforce is going to come from Christian County. To your point about where people choose to live, we're a partner with yours as well to be supportive of getting more residential development. You can't get people to move into residential units that don't exist. And so that's part of the solution. We, as partners with you and others, private developers particularly, need to be finding ways to get more residential development on the market so that as you bring in new jobs, there's choices for people to choose from, because workers and people coming into your community, they're going to make choices based on inventory. And if you don't have but 2 or 3 homes on the market that meet their interest, and Clarksville has 300 on the market that meets their interest, guess where they tend to locate towards? And so I just want to make sure to acknowledge that. And so we're with you. We want to see more housing. We want to encourage that. You're going to see that coming out of our strategic plan that we're working on. It's not our direct role, but we want to be a partner with you and others to make that happen. And then I also wanted to acknowledge, going back to the kind of the comments about Kitchen Food and their timeline and their process. You got to remember, this is an international company. And so this is their first North American location. And so I think rightfully they have ran a slow, diligent process to make sure that before they make a commitment, that they know what they need to know to be successful. And quite frankly, we want them to run that type of a diligent process so that when they have their groundbreaking and grand opening ceremony, and we'll all be there and excited about it, that they're going to succeed, that they didn't rush into a decision and rush into a choice that they weren't really ready for. So I take their due diligence to be a good sign of business shrewdness, which is really important when making multi-million-dollar international investments. So I don't know if it's typical or not, but I certainly understand why they've made sure to take their time and dot their I's and cross their T's. In addition, there are other layers of the process that took more time than initially we thought would take to get to that point. So there's other parts of the process that delayed them, and now they're working through the last stages. And I'll reiterate, spoke to their CEO last week. I'll speak to him again this week. They are full speed ahead. This is not an issue of if. They're committed. They've made commitments to contracts and to customers. They have got to make this move happen. It's simply a matter of when. And when it's closed, I know he's going to breathe a lot easier. You're going to breathe a lot easier. And about 6 months after that, they'll have a ceremony and we'll all be celebrating it officially. But this thing is it's moving. So it may be atypical, but I can assure you that their reasons are legitimate reasons.
All right, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Going back to the spec building, you had mentioned something, I just want to clarify that. So you anticipate in 2 months coming back, requesting assistance for the payment, for the interest payment of the spec building also? You said earlier?
We will when it closes, we pay the interest you have paid so far back to the city. I was just making the point that since the city and county's last payment on the spec building, because I'd been sending that every quarter, that a payment was due and y'all split it. Payment was due, you split it. Well, another payment was due in January and end of January. And I thought the closing was going to happen any minute. And I just didn't go ahead and ask Melissa to write the check because I thought I'd have a check from the spec building and then I would pay it. So yes, there will be another, the next, well, whatever the quarter is, the next interest on the spec building will be 425.
All right, so before you, on your screen, there's the municipal order that's been drafted. It has been amended. If you look at the very bottom, that last, and it's promising to repay the city of Hopkinsville upon the sale of the spec building. We added the language or upon the expiration of 1 year, whichever shall first occur. So there's the new one right there. So if we're all in agreement, we need a motion to send that to council.
I'll make a motion. Do we send it to council? Sorry.
Second. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, sir. Oh, okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Got 2 noes. Do a roll call. Let's do a roll call.
Councilmember Marsh,
Yes.
Councilmember Crabtree,
No.
Councilmember Craig,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Councilmember Sumner,
Yes.
Councilmember Make,
Yes.
Councilmember Bogard,
Yes.
Councilmember Velez, Councilmember Bell,
No.
Councilmember Drought,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Stallings.
Yes.
That does pass.
All right. Item C is Economic Development Fund expenditure, the South Park Road. And Mr. Grenshaw's going to talk about that as well.
Okay. Is everyone familiar with Wayman's Way in South Park?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a brand new plant out there, Toyota Shoku. And it turns out that they were very, very tight on that 49 acres or something. It was right in there. And then the title search was done. And there was an option that was signed 9.5 years ago or something like that. I signed it. I'm sorry. I didn't remember it. The landowner didn't remember it. The attorney didn't find it. It was recorded. And things got really sticky. For a minute, Toyota Bashoku said, we're not coming. Because it took 1 acre and 5/10 off of Toyota Bashoku's property because Altria, when they built Eagle One, which happened to be the first industry that the city gave the land for it, they negotiated an option. And for this property in case they wanted to build another plant behind it. So that was a big deal that Mayor Dan Kemp, I even called Dan and said, do you remember that? And he said, no, I don't remember it. I think Doug, you were here too. And
For the record, I didn't do the title opinion.
but you were here for when we did the Altria deal. And that was something they wanted, was a way to get to that property. So we were on a video call and here sits Toyota saying, we're not coming. You know, we don't have enough land. And here sits Altria and they said, I gotta have a way back to my property. And there I said, and Carter, we said, hold on, just split the difference. What can we do here to make this happen? And we put the center of the road on the property line. And we had to buy 1.3 acres from Toyota and Tom Britton. It didn't affect any of their plans. It was still we didn't get into their retention basin in that ditch. And we ended up moving the fence at US Tobacco at Altria 7 feet. So who even knows the difference? It's moved over 7 feet, but both of them would not sign on without us buying the land and building the road. But I said, wait a minute, I don't want to build all that road. I mean, you're not even using it. Wait a minute. Toyota just needs to get in their truck lot. And then there's a little curve. Let's get past that curve. So instead of building 1,350 feet of road, we built 350 feet of road. And only 180 feet or something of that, or maybe less, has been dedicated as a city street now. And we said in that meeting, and Mike Berry was in that meeting, and he said, this could cost us 1.2 million. This is not right, Mike, that when it was going to hold 1,350 feet, you know, yeah, this could really be bad. Well, believe me, again, here I am working for the community for nothing. I got it done for $323,000. I thought it was going to cost 500 or more, but, and so I came to the council in the county and said, come on, guys, can you give me $250 each or whatever? Well, the county never really agreed to the $250 each. It was a loan. And you had a resolution that you would, where is that resolution? There it is.
It's on there.
Municipal order. Authorize 250 hours, uses of construction of the road in South Park. Okay. Another spreadsheet I got here for $323,000. And the last payment, I have asked the mayor, can you make your last payment for $123,800.21, which would total out your $250,000? I would send, and I'm being flat out with y'all, I'll send 53 back to the county, so their investment would be $73,000. I went to the county judge. He says, okay, we'll give you the 73. And the city would be out 250. The county would be out 73. You're the ones who are going to get all the payroll tax. You get more revenue than the county does. I feel like it's fair. I feel like that at one time we had a $1.2 million problem. At one time, we had an industry that's going to be the highest paying jobs in Hopkinsville that said they weren't coming.
Mr. Crenshaw, are you starting to see my point now?
Yeah,
Here we are
it's-
again with this partnership.
Here we go.
We're getting the shit into the stick.
That's-
Okay, well,
amen.
I mean, in this, again, in your examples that you're giving to us, only thing I'm learning is from what you're telling us tonight. And again, now the city's taken where this agreement was going to be half and half. I get it. They're going to give you the money, or they're going to loan it to you versus we said we would give it to you, apparently.
That's right.
I don't blame you. Go for the money that's free, not the money that's going to cost you in the return. But it's
Well,
all about that partnership again.
323, 150, 160, I'll just be going to Jerry and the fiscal court and saying, okay, you're giving me 73, and so now I've got to come up, the Industrial Foundation, who is already not doing so well financially, as you know, we got to find some money. So I was just saying again,
I have a
the
question.
Industrial
I have a
Foundation
question.
stepped in.
The original MO we passed authorized up to $250,000 on this road, and it's split evenly with the county. We paid our portion. And I think we've held up our end of the bargain. And that's just where I'm at.
I
Mr.
concur with
Crenshaw,
I
Travis
think we're
Martin.
done.
Okay, well then, in other words, there's a $70,000 bill the Industrial Foundation paid, which I haven't split it, so it would be me saying to Melissa, to finish your part, it's $35,150.
May I ask a
And-
I
question?
thought we've already paid our part.
No, you paid, there's,
He has one more payment left and he'll send me all the receipts and everything and I'll pay half,
50/50.
50/50.
and so okay, I mean, I was just here trying to get to 250, so I don't have to fight fiscal court, but
Can-
if you don't think it's right, then here I am.
I have a question to
That was
ask
the
Doug.
agreement. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we revisit this conversation after this other deal closes?
You can always bring that back.
Okay.
Mr. Crenshaw, I have one question, just to help me. The Industrial Foundation, was the spec building built to flip to get money for the Industrial Foundation? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Or is it built with, we want X number of many new jobs coming? So from the Industrial Foundation's perspective.
It's built from our mission statement of creating industrial jobs in Hopkinsville. And yes, those 12 buildings that we built, we have usually made a little bit of money to keep, but
Right, to
we
fund
got
the Industrial
expenses
Foundation.
too,
Right, so you can buy land and
Yeah,
stuff like
we,
that.
we
I'm just trying to
mow.
clarify, is
we-
it for the
yeah.
money's sake or is it for X number of jobs' sake? I'm just trying to clarify for
It's-
myself. Because if it was money's sake, then we would sell it to the first person that offered.
Well, then obviously we had in mind more of the community because we wanted more jobs.
Okay.
If we could just cash out real quick, well, we didn't make the 30 jobs, but we got our money back. We were thinking about the community. Is that correct?
Correct. And the only reason I stood up, Councilman.
Yeah,
Snyder,
no,
is
please.
We're the strategic partner that markets the properties on their behalf and that represents those properties. We don't act as a commercial real estate agent would act. There's no commission
Right.
exchange. And so you need that motivation because our motivation is job creation, capital investment, and wage creation. Our motivation is not maximizing profit. It's to make sure we can get a deal done so you get the job creation and the tax revenue that comes with that. So I want to make, if they told us it was simply about profit, we'd say, well, list it. There's
Sure,
lots
yeah,
of good commercial agents out there, lots of good commercial agents.
makes sense.
No, but we're going on what our mission statement is. This is to grow and help the community of Hopkinsville. And this Wayman's Way project, I mean, I got thrown in the middle of it. And as I watched US Tobacco expand to the very end of their property on North Drive, y'all are aware of that they've grown. And so now all of a sudden, I'm talking to Ben Smith, the head real estate guy with Altria, and he's saying, John, I mean, if we're going to grow, we need this property in a way to get to it. We got to find a way to do it. I said, okay, Ben, I got the Altria people Toyota people saying, we've already done all this stuff to get here, and this is going to mess up our water drainage. I mean, how can we fix this? I said, what about split it down the middle? And we were able to do it. And for a third or a quarter of the price tag that we initially thought it was going to take. And so I did the best I could. I thought I did pretty well. But if I have to, the Industrial Foundation, I'll just go, we revisit it later and try to work this out and get the county people in the room and say, county, what will you pay? But I know they said it was split at the time.
That's it.
They made you a promise.
Yeah, they,
At the end of the day, the attorney is the one that made the mistake, correct? And in my real estate world, the attorney is at fault, and they have E&O insurance just like I do. So you're asking the taxpayers to pay for an attorney's fault, for an
my
attorney's issue.
board made me or told me to go to their title people.
Well,
And I said, we'd like to make a claim on just that land. And he sent me back a letter that reamed me, said, you don't even know how much claim this is going to be. We would have been paying Toyota Bashuku millions of dollars for all the work they had done to get this project here, but he'd screwed it up, and his insurance wouldn't have covered it. We would have had a lawsuit between the county, the city, I mean, whatever. I'm
I
just
hate to
saying,
say it, but we're not
we got a
covering
really
anything.
good thing that happened here, people, with Toyota Bashuku and that road and a potential for Altria. And we did it for 323, and I got a set of plans, and they're the ones responsible for the next 1,000 feet of road, not us. We're out. We got them the easement, the land to do it, and everything's hunky-dory out there with them. Now, I'm just trying to figure out how I can get the bills paid. That's
we-
all I'm
We paid
doing.
our part, so I see this. So there is not a motion on the floor to send this to council, is that correct?
That's correct.
That is correct. All right, so that will.
So I will, Melissa, I'll send you that last two invoices, one for 475, one for 70,300. Okay.
All right.
And we'll do that, and then I'll send the other one over to the fiscal court and say, here's your half, and I'll go from there.
Thank you. We are at item 5.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.